Hello, and welcome to Anderson Community Television. I'm Carol Donahue, your substitute host today for Kyle Dinsler, and the program is Anderson Speaks. We have an exciting program today, and let's get right to it. My first guest is Mr. Carl Bergman, and he is affiliated with Cincinnati Habitat for Humanity. Welcome to the program, Carl.
Thank you very much, Carol. It's nice to be here.
Great. Well, let's see. There's been a lot going on since we spoke to you last.
Yes, I think the big news right now is our name change. We're actually known now as Habitat of Greater Cincinnati. We have just merged with Tri-State Habitat for Humanity, which are the 8 counties that surrounded Hamilton County in Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. So we are truly a regional nonprofit right now. We go all the way up to Butler County in Oxford, Ohio. We're building houses in Claremont County and down into Kentucky.
Wow. Now, there was a merger previous to that also.
Yes, in July of 2010, Cincinnati Habitat for Humanity merged with Mill Creek Valley Habitat, which was a small organization, and they had the geography which was Galbraith North, but they were only building about 1 house a year and struggling. It really made sense from a donor standpoint that we merged at that time.
Well, I always associate Habitat for Humanity as going in and doing a little painting and cleaning up the shrubs, but actually it's gone further and further. You actually rehab homes for people, some from the ground up, correct?
Yes, this was an organization back, maybe just 5-6 years ago that we operated out of a basement of a church for 24 years in downtown Cincinnati, the Covenant Church at 8th and Elm. And we have really changed the organization tremendously. We'll build 38 houses this year, and we'll rehab another 20 houses. The rehab part of it really became part of our strategic plan to spread our net wider. There are some donors who were critical of us and we didn't get money, and they said, you know what, you just don't spread your net very far. You maybe build 8-10 houses a year, but that doesn't touch enough people, and that we want to see organizations that really make a bigger difference. So we really changed the way we operated, put a strategic plan to get together in Cincinnati to get to 20 houses by 2013. We built 19 last year, and then the merger came, so now we will build 38 houses in the area and repair 20 houses. And we'll also rehabilitate existing houses. There's a repair program to help folks that have kind of fallen on hard times and need some help.
Now, where do you get the supplies to do this?
Well, we have a lot of very generous donors in this area. We are very blessed to have companies who will fund houses. Procter & Gamble is funding 3 houses this year. Ohio National is funding 2 houses. We have Wells Fargo, Messer Construction. Home Depot helps us out tremendously. Plus, there are 4 church coalitions, groups of churches, and a number of them here in the Anderson area who give money to the Shalom Coalition in the case of this east side part of Cincinnati, and we have about 6 or 8 churches in that group, and we built a house every year, probably focused on East Walnut Hills, Avondale area.
Do you have a list of contractors that you go to that do remodeling? So maybe as they take out the old equipment to replace it with something brand new, do they call you?
Yes, another big part of our business, and in order for us to grow our business, we really had to develop an alternative revenue stream. So I think it was May of 2010, we opened our first Restore. And Restores sell new and used donated building materials, appliances, furniture, just about anything besides bedding and clothing. And we work the contractor market. We go to the bed and bath shows in Sharonville and downtown Cincinnati, and we have a booth there to kind of educate the public that they can, when they're remodeling, they can donate their cabinets or their vanities or toilets or whatever household item, electrical, whatever. And if they have a big enough donation, we'll come pick it up. Just call 721-GIVE, and we have 4 trucks in the marketplace, and we'll come pick it up.
Great. We'll put that number on the screen so that's available to the people. So what can I, as an average citizen, what can I do to help you and to help your cause?
Well, I think awareness of what we're doing is one of the things I'm here today. And we need support from a volunteer standpoint. We need support from a financial standpoint. You know, we like to say that Habitat is not a handout, it's a hand up. And I think one of the greatest misconceptions is that we're giving something away to these families. And that could be not that's farthest from the truth. We really, these people put in from 250 to 500 hours of sweat equity to get into the home. That's their down payment. And then they get an interest-free note for approximately 30 years to pay off that house. And it really changes their lives dramatically. Not only in giving them kind of hope and some dignity and some pride in home ownership, but we also know that the children that grow up in Habitat homes have a 25% increase in high school graduation rates, 116% increase in college attendance, 30% fewer teenage pregnancies. And we also know that social services will spend $34,000 less on this family when they are in their own home. So it's a win-win situation and changes their lives dramatically. 10 years after kids leave the Habitat home, 59% of them will become homeowners also. So it truly breaks the cycle.
Do you ever see people come back as volunteers that were helped by this program?
Yes, we have a number of people who continue to work with us, but mostly we have retirees and businesses who support us on a volunteer basis.
Now tell us where your stores are located.
We now have, with the merger with Tri-State, they had probably the first store in the area in Hamilton, right on Laurel Avenue off of Route 4. Our first store, which was part of Cincinnati Habitat for Humanity, was opened in Bond Hill, and that is also the offices space. We have a 34,000 square foot building that was the former Community Press, and we have all our centralized offices there in addition to 20,000 square feet for the Restore. And we did so well with that initial Restore. We opened one a year later in Cheviot. On North Bend Road. It's the old Sullivan IGA. It's just opposite the Harvest Homes. And then just last November, we opened up our fourth store in Florence, right on Route 42.
Now, do you have a website?
Yes, our new website is www.habitatcincinnati.org.
Now, is there any way for the person checking that website to give their name to volunteer?
Yes, there's a volunteer application in there where you just go on and it shows you how to volunteer. It used to be called Volunteer Up, and now it's just changed the name, and I can't recall the name. It's so new. But you can volunteer and sign up, and we will send out weekly list of volunteer opportunities for anyone interested. You can do clerical work. You can work in the Restores. We truly need more volunteers in the Restore, because the more we can have volunteer labor, the higher the profits and the more that the Restores help us fund additional houses here in the area.
Now you're opening up this even wider to veterans, correct?
Yes, we have a veterans program that Home Depot has been very generous to us, as I said earlier, and they are helping us with this veterans program. And I guess if your listeners know a veteran who's fallen on hard times and needs some work done on their house, we'd like to come in and help. Now, there are some criteria. There's some income levels that they can't exceed, and they will pay us back over time. But we'll give them a note. They'll retain their dignity. But we come in and do things like put a new roof on their house or replace furnaces and things like that so that they can stay in their house. The couple of them that I've done at the closing of have been just very rewarding. People are just so grateful that they're able to stay in their house. And that's one of the ways that we're trying to kind of spread our net a little bit wider, helping people not just build new houses and rehab existing houses, but repair houses in the marketplace.
Do you have a program where you acquire homes, perhaps like foreclosed homes, or? Yeah,
we have, the city has worked with us very well, and we have donations of lots and homes. With the teardowns that are being done in the city right now, we're coming up with a number of those lots. And I tell you, we changed the fabric of the neighborhood too. I was just at a kickoff ceremony a week ago in Preston, and that was one of the first houses that I worked on probably 8 years ago when I first started working for Habitat. And this is the fourth house on that street. When we first started on that street was rugged. There were some apartment complexes down there where nothing good was really happening.
Where is Preston, Carl?
Preston is just 2 blocks off of Gilbert, behind McConnell Cadillac, behind the Frisch's headquarters. And right now, the fourth house is going in. Some of these old apartment buildings are being torn down, and we are acquiring the lots, many times free, and changing the fabric of the neighborhood. And that became one of our strategies, not to build one house in Avondale, one house in Fairmont, but to build a concentration of houses in an area so we actually change the fabric of the neighborhood.
You can affect the community so much more than just one house there. I can see that in one house
Exactly. And then if we repair houses also in that same area, it's a win-win situation for the entire community.
So if someone maybe is down on their luck and they need your assistance, they call the number that's posted on the screen also?
Yes, they can go to the, that's a veterans program, and that will be handled separately from somebody who really wants to become a homeowner. But you can go to the website again, habitatcincinnati.org. You can sign up or ask to receive an application to see if you qualify. Typically, Habitat families, they make too much money for Section 8 housing, but they don't qualify for a traditional FHA loan. So they're kind of trapped in the middle,
right.
And that's where we help out. And we have a tremendous success rate, too. Our foreclosure rate is far less than the national average foreclosure rates. And these were the people who couldn't get traditional financing. So we pick good people who are dedicated, who appreciate the opportunity that they have and that's given to them. And it again, changes their lives dramatically.
So most of these people are first-time homeowners. Do you have a follow-up program that if they're in the home and maybe something breaks down or it doesn't work, that they will call you or you will follow up with repairs?
Yeah, we do some of that where we can. We have up in the tri-state, former tri-state area, I think it's in Hamilton or Middletown, there was a wall built, and the wall is now deteriorated, so we're going up there, and one of our suppliers is trying to straighten the wall out. So we do go back, but going in, we have financial classes for these folks. We have home ownership classes, teaching them how, you got to change the filter in the furnace and things like that, kind of basic home maintenance things to watch out for.
Well, that is a wonderful program that truly I can see makes a difference. Now, you've been very fortunate because the coverage has been good. I've seen on television where they awarding someone a home and this possibility, this new life, and that's wonderful. And you also received an award yourself, correct?
Yes, last year I was Ohio Habitat Volunteer Year, which was very nice recognition. I started pounding nails probably 8 years ago. Was asked if I'd like to be on the board, join the board. Asked if I'd like to be the president of the board, basically, because nobody else would do it, so I served as president for 2 years. And now I termed out last October, but with this new board, with Tri-State and Cincinnati Habitat coming together, I'm back on the board for another 6-year term. But it's extremely rewarding. I mean, it's just to see these families at the dedication ceremony, and you're getting hugs from people you've never even met before.
Oh,
Extremely rewarding.
About how many people are involved in the program currently? Volunteers?
We have over 450 homes that we hold mortgages on. Habitat for Humanity holds their own mortgages. And so there are about 450 homeowners out there right now that are paying mortgages back to us on a monthly basis. And that money then becomes the seed money for new houses.
Yes. Isn't that great how that just plays forward?
Yes.
Now, how long has Habitat for Humanity been here in the Cincinnati area?
Cincinnati Habitat for Humanity started in 1986, and I think Tri-State started just about that same time. And we've been operating really for a number of years, kind of struggled, but in the last 5-6 years, with some new leadership, Ed Lee is our president and chief executive officer now of this new organization, and he comes from Procter & Gamble, retired early, and has really brought a steady accountability, a belief in a strategic plan to the organization, and has really made a difference. We've really made great strides in the last 4 or 5 years.
Sounds like you've got a lot of dedicated people.
Yes, we've had some wonderful employees who are really dedicated to this notion of home ownership, making lives different for our partner families.
Well, that is great, and we can encourage everyone to check the website and to call if they know that if they themselves need assistance or if they know of someone else. And the Veterans Program, I think, is wonderful, and I think we're becoming so much more conscious of the needs of the veteran, so much more than we were 20, 30 years ago.
And the reason I got involved is because I see what the money can do for these people. It just doesn't go away. It changes their lives. We like to say that Habitat is not a charity. It's an investment in our community.
And I think if you want to make a difference, that's a great way to do it, to look into this program. So this is the time of the year when a lot of people think of moving or they're going to remodel and redecorate. So don't throw those old cabinets out, correct?
Correct.
And those mirrors and doors. Do you even take, like, everybody's now going to like the brushed nickel doorknobs and door jambs? Do you take the old brass ones?
We have a lot of brass lighting fixtures, but we've figured out how to sell them. We paint them.
Spray
and then
them or whatever.
spray
yeah.
paint them, and people are buying them. So we take everything, but basically bedding and clothing, and you come shop. There's a lot of women who come into our restores just looking for treasures, and you got to come in all the time because the inventory is always changing.
That's
But
wonderful.
we do need donations of our #1 seller are used appliances, and we can always use used appliances, something that still works and still has some life in it. And then furniture is #2 and tied basically with cabinets.
And I think you told me you take computers.
Yes, we are a drop-off point for electronic equipment. Part of our message really is about green, about being green and recycling. And we got a grant from Hamilton County to buy a truck because we estimate there's about 500 tons from each one of these restores that don't go into area landfills every year. So we have a good green message, and the recycling of computer hardware and printers and those kind of things helps us out, and it generates a little bit of money for us also.
So you're keeping us green, and you're helping the veterans, and you're helping those that are needy. So that's a wonderful way to, and this is your retirement too, isn't it?
Yes, I'm retired from Ford Motor Company, but this has been a real passion for me over the last couple of years and I've used some of the same skill sets I acquired when I was working. I've been kind of the ones that pushing the growth of the restores, but you really wind up doing the same thing you did at work. Look for a good location, negotiate a good lease, put a good business plan together, hire the right people, and we're off and running.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Carl, for everything you do. You're a true local hero. Thank you so much. And please don't go away. We'll be right back. And remember, Cincinnati Habitat for Humanity. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. We have a great guest, somebody probably most of you already know. She is one of the most knowledgeable people about her products. Who is it? It is Susan Parker from Susan's Natural World. Thanks for coming by, Susan.
Thank you
You're
for
always a
inviting
treat.
me back. I'm so happy to be here.
And especially in this season, as my husband is home with his tissues and blowing his nose and sneezing. And I think you've brought some alternatives to medications that make you drowsy and dopey.
I have. I've, this time of the year, and every time of the year in Cincinnati, we have a lot of mold and a lot of people suffering from allergies to different things in our area. We love our beautiful river, but it brings mold into our lives. But this time of the year, so many people are sneezing, coughing, having runny eyes, dripping. The reason being is certainly everything is bursting forth all at the same time. Allergies, and I like everybody to focus on really being as healthy as possible, because what I know, allergies really are telling you that your immune system is not breathing in something or eating a food or whatever it is that you're allergic to and responding in the most healthful way and disabling the allergen and getting it out of your body. So we need to really focus on a healthy immune system. So people really need to look at what they're eating, what they're drinking, how much sugar, how many other medications they've been on, how many times have you been on an antibiotic throughout your life without repaying your body back with a probiotic or a friendly bacteria, just to restore your immune system. So I really like to first encourage everybody, get as healthy as you can. And if you've got bad habits, if you're overusing anything, you'll be more moderate. But wanted to talk a little bit about some of the wonderful things that are growing in our yards right now, such as dandelions and clover and chickweed, and really pointing out to people that we want to call these nuisance plants. They are nature's gifts. There's reasons that in the spring, these flowers and plants and things we want to refer to as weeds grow in the yards. You know, in origins of time where people had to live in caves, teepees, log cabins, they would have to dry their food, can their veggies or whatever. But by late winter, early spring, a lot of those things were gone. They'd been inside for the winter. Their lungs, their livers were congested, their lungs were full because there wasn't air purification. You know, a log cabin with a wood fireplace, you were breathing a lot of wood smoke inside the teepees, you know, the one little hole that would go up. So their lungs would be filled and their livers would be congested. So there are many beautiful gifts from nature. And I started on the way to just pick some dandelions, but I wanted to start with dandelions because here in Anderson Township, we want to consider those dandelions really a nuisance and something ugly in our yard. Dandelions are an amazing, amazing food. And what they do is ease a congested liver and lungs. So it's very important. And keeping a clean liver is the most important thing we can do. So, you know, certainly I understand we want a pretty yard, and if you think the dandelions are unattractive, that's going to be up to you and your decision. I would want to say if you're putting chemicals in your yard to kill dandelions, be careful with your children, be careful with your pets. Many dogs that get cancers are in those yards that are trying to kill these nice little weeds, so because we think they're nuisances. So certainly a beautiful lawn is beautiful, and I can admire that. But dandelions are so good for us, and that can really go far to help with allergies, just keeping your liver and your lungs clean. So wanted to mention that.
Now this is tea bags. This is not something you take internally. It's
Well,
a tea bag.
this is a tea bag, but there are capsules, there are tinctures, there are all kinds of ways to get it. I do want to point out, though, do not go out into your yard or into a field and pick dandelions and eat them unless you are positive it's not been sprayed with chemicals, because that's so important. So you wouldn't want to just go harvest your yard unless, you know, like my husband's grandfather owns the property we've been on for like 60 years, and nothing's been sprayed there. So a few dandelions from my yard could I dry and make some tea, but most of us should not do that. But you can get it in all kinds of really wonderful forms. Wanted to mention alfalfa, which is called the king of foods. And alfalfa is one plant that goes deepest into the soil than any other plant. So it's why we feed it to racehorses. But it's very good. I have one here somewhere. Here it is. Alfalfa leaf. And you can get tincture in capsules. Alfalfa is really good, again, for the liver and the lungs. But for balancing acid in your body, so many of us are overly acidic. So if you're like, you know, on one of those drugs or having heartburn or something, drinking a little alfalfa tea after dinner can be very helpful. And it really is one of those foods that, because it goes deepest into the soil, it brings up minerals and trace minerals we don't find in other foods. So alfalfa would be something to consider. If you're just feeling sluggish, tired, it's also one of the best things, one of the first things we use for arthritis of any type. And arthritis in, you know how big dogs, especially their back legs, get very weak. Alfalfa and alfalfa tablets are one of the very best things. I happen to have an old pet sheep. We think he's 13 years old. And I thought, this winter, had done him in, because he was staggering around and he fell down a couple of times. And I'd have to pick him up and dust him off, but he's not sick. He's just old and kind of feeble. So I even said to myself, well, gosh, it's so good for dogs and horses. So I did research and make sure it would be all right for sheep, but I started to feed my old guy alfalfa cubes, okay, and organic baby carrots, and hand feed him, because I thought maybe he's just too old and he's not able to nourish himself enough. Within about 3 days, he was so much better. And now with all the grass and everything that's come in, he's absolutely come back one more time. So alfalfa for horses, pets of all kinds. If your dogs are getting weak in the legs, try some alfalfa. It really is a wonderful, wonderful food.
I see you have milk thistle there. Isn't that good for the liver?
It is wonderful for the liver. The milk thistle, one of the best foods for, you know, and the great thing about our livers, I mean, they're very, very important, but you can cleanse and regenerate your liver.
A lot of people have like a fatty liver.
They do.
Yeah.
About 80% of Americans have, and again, Americans, that's that processed food. It's all the sugar. See, your body, you eat sugar, it spikes your glycemic index within an hour, and then your body turns that sugar into fat that it wants to store in your liver. So all the sugars and all the processed foods are real troublemakers. Milk thistle comes in a lot of forms, and it is a wonderful herb to cleanse and regenerate a liver, and all of us would benefit from that. So that is really
Can you still
wonderful.
have an occasional glass of wine with that milk thistle?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, then, okay.
No, occasional, nothing.
All right.
You know, no. You know, and the thing is, that's even, so we don't want to certainly be drinking too much.
No.
A glass or two of really good red wine, a dark beer, things like, you know, alcohol has been used for thousands and thousands of years, and if you're running into trouble and you're being excessive, that's going to be a problem. But I say if you want to have your wine or two at dinner, then, you know, in the morning, have some dandelion tea, have some milk thistle tea, you know, start your day, and I do this all the time. I start my day with 2 big glasses of water that I squeeze lemon in. Lemon itself is a wonderful cleanse for the liver and everything else. So very, very helpful. I brought a few things to then kind of help prevent allergies even further, and then a few homeopathic medicines, because we're seeing people totally suffering right now and getting on drugs that may not be the best answer and that you don't want to use forever and may not make you feel very well. So the first thing I want to show is raw, unpasteurized, unfiltered local honey. So as local as we can get the raw honey, and the real idea is to start to eat little bits of it in January or February. So by April and May, when everything's flying, you have built up. It's a wonderful thing to use all the time. And honey truly is a wonderful health food. It's sugar, so if you've got sugar issues, you can't overdo it. But honey is very alkalizing to your body, so again, balances acids. I have a number of my customers who say they put just a little bit of honey on their tongue before they go to bed, and it really helps them relax and breathe and not snore when they're sleeping. So local honey is very important. This is bee pollen. So bee pollen goes even a little deeper than just the honey, where the bees, and you know, the bees were there with the dinosaurs, and certainly we're worried about the bees because a lot of the chemicals are affecting bees, but bees are very, very smart, and we need to really pay attention to what they were doing. So the pollen is like the bottom of the hive, and it's got all kinds. Bee pollen is what's called a superfood, a perfect food. Bee pollen has every single vitamin, mineral, trace mineral, nucleic acid in just a really nice balance. So you may not even know what your vitamin deficiency or mineral deficiency would be, but starting to consume small amounts, and I want to say, start small, real small.
So what is this? So do you sprinkle that on
Yeah,
something?
you can sprinkle it in your yogurt, you can stir it in your juice, on your cereal, you can just eat it if you want, but starting with about 1/4 of a teaspoon and then building up to a teaspoon or 2 a day. Lots of people, athletes like to use it for a lot of reasons, but it will really help with allergies, but maybe a lot of other systems in your body also. So you might want to consider it. I like to jump in and say, if you are on prescription drugs, I would want you to check with your pharmacist or your doctor to make sure they don't have an objection to you trying bee pollen in particular. And I'd like to point out, babies don't get honey and until they say 1, but in our store we suggest don't give babies honey until they're 2 years old.
Now, why would that be?
You know what? There's so much in honey
Oh,
that
I
it's
see.
just, it could be, we just don't even know everything that's in there. So it could be a little too much for an infant. So that's why we start slowly and build up. But really wonderful. And the more local, the better, because you're going to be taking in what's flying around in the air and bothering you.
I see.
But I did also want to mention that there are many, many natural, healthy, safe things that we can do for allergies. Just rinsing with the neti pot, keeping your nasal passage clean can be very healthy. If you're suffering with allergies right now, we really suggest avoiding dairy products because dairy products make mucus. And in that, if you got too much mucus in your body, all kinds of troublemakers have a nice breeding ground and a place to live. So if you're sneezing and coughing and gagging right now, no cheese, no ice cream.
No yogurt.
You know, yogurt, and a good yogurt would be the best one,
The
maybe.
Greek yogurt,
The
maybe?
Greek yogurt would be good. if that still is bothering you, you may let go of that. But yogurt truly is the supreme dairy product, but I wouldn't overeat that. But there are alternatives. There's almond milk and rice milks and oat milk and hemp milk and all kinds of other types of milks, cheese alternatives. And just to do it temporarily as you're then drinking your lemon water or doing your dandelion or your milk thistle, just to let that cleanse get through. But I did want to also explain a little bit about what are called homeopathic medicines. They are one section in our health food store that actually can make claims, and they are actually licensed by the FDA as medications.
Explain, what does something have to be called homeopathic?
Okay, homeopathic will be minute dosing, tiny, tiny dosing of only natural substances that are going to be put together to sort of be a preventative to illness. Sometimes it's kind of like a flu shot by giving you a little bit of what might be bothering you. Like, for example, I had an eye injury last summer rescuing a baby deer from my dogs, and I wound up with a black eye. And what all my studying said, the first thing to take for my eye was Allium cepa, which is a homeopathic medicine, but you know what? It's onion. So it's homeopathic dose of onion, which cleansed the blood out of my eye.
So you rubbed the onion?
No.
No, you took it internally?
Pills under my tongue. And it's sort of balanced. But I thought, wow, but then I thought, onions, when we do it, they make us cry.
Cry, exactly.
So it cleared up my eye. So it's using foods. It's always going to be animal, mineral, vegetable, or flour, natural, tiny little dosing, but they're always safe. Pregnant ladies can use them. People that are on other medications, people with heart issues can use homeopathic medicines. So that's why we really love them in the natural food stores. One of the keys to taking them, and sometimes why some people think they don't work so well, is the key is small, regular dosing. Say, if you were having an allergic attack and you were sneezing, 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 we might choose one of these outdoor allergies and say, chew this slightly under your tongue, let it dissolve in your mouth, and then do it every half hour until you feel better. So 3 or 4 doses until it balances back out. So sometimes people will go, I took one, it didn't work. Well, one won't work. It's different, but it's safe, and it's small, frequent, balanced dosing. And then what you're doing is you're giving, it's called the law of similars, you're giving your body kind of what it's allergic to, but in the tiniest little bit that you're building up an immunity. So there's all kinds. There are drops for the eyes, a really wonderful brand called Similicin. I'm not the only person who sells them, but these are eye drops that will not dry your eyes out and overdo you. And a lot of eye drops that say they're going to get the red out, they're going to dry your eyes terribly, and that will be a problem.
Yes.
So there are soothing eye drops that you can use all the time.
Especially for contact lens wearers.
Yes, yes. Allergies for children, and I was sharing with you, one of our regular customers who has shopped in the store for years, has 2 little boys, one's like 7 or 8 years old. He was having to go on medications for allergies, and about a week ago she came into the store and talked to one of my employees saying that, you know, she was having to drug him to go to school, and it made him feel bad or tired. And we suggested, she said what was going on, and we suggested the tree pollen.
Here it is, right here.
Yeah, because we thought this might be what's going on with him. But we had a lot of different ones, and because you can't hurt yourself with it, then, you know, you can try different ones. She came back 2 days later and thanked Peggy, our manager, and said, you told me about that, and the second dosage she gave the child, he didn't need the drugs anymore, Claritin and Benadryl. So, you know, Claritin and Benadryl, they could be absolutely fine, and if you need them, great. But maybe you want to see, is there something else you can do to help you balance and get over your allergies a little bit, and then maybe to introduce foods that we know that can support the immune system, fill in nutritional gaps, and maybe help us be a little healthier overall.
Well, you have one, these are, a lot of these are safe for children here.
Yes, well, all of them really
of them
would
are.
be. This is one of my personal favorites, and this one is homeopathic plus, and it's plus something that's called quercetin. And quercetin is what's called a bioflavonoid. They come from vitamin C. You know, when we eat grapefruits, oranges, the watermelon, the white stringy part, the white, that's where you find the bioflavonoids. They are wonderful and very important. So, you know, a lot of mothers clean the oranges really nice. My kids got these big, stringy, messy oranges because that was a really healthy part. And individually, bioflavonoids can do individual things in your body. In this one is this quercetin. And what quercetin does in the body, and so I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but the way I understand it is as we breathe in something that's going to be a problem for our body responds by making histamines. And the histamine is what makes you sneeze and drip and feel bad and get headachy. Well, when you take quercetin and you take it every day, what quercetin likes to do when it's inside your body is eat histamines. So it will eat that histamine before it can become a problem that then you need the antihistamine to correct. So so vitamin C is always good. Eating oranges and grapefruit and watermelons and getting those, but you can buy quercetin by itself. This one is quercetin with a few other things blended to be really for allergies and sinus, and the sinus in Cincinnati is such a problem also. But I just would want everybody to know you don't need to suffer needlessly, and you don't always have to go on one drug after the other drug. You know, Americans take more prescription drugs than the rest of the world put together. And we see, sadly, lots of our elderly customers that are dizzy, unstable, and a lot of times when they start eliminating medications, they clear right up. We see people who think they're having dementia, and some of these medications that they're on, the minute they get off of them, they're cleared up, and it's, you know, it's sad to think that you're losing your mind, you know.
Well, we have so many medications that we now have days where we bring all the ones to dispose of that we didn't take.
Yes.
So
because so many of those medications
Don't
are
work.
landing in our sewer system and our public water
Exactly.
because they're being flushed down toilets. So just to saying, allergies tell you that your immune system is not working efficiently, so begin to work on it. Be aware of all kinds of chamomile, so nice for your stomach. This is hyssop. Hyssop, Psalms 51, I think, is the verse in the Bible.
In the Bible,
It says, "Purge me with hyssop that I shall be clean." Well, hyssop is a purifier of your whole system. So hyssop tea, taking a little bit of hyssop with some nice clean water, would that be helpful? I figure if it's put it in the Bible, hyssop's got to be good for us.
that would be good after the holiday one to take.
It would. It really would be a really good one. Well, after the holiday, milk thistle, dandelion, and those things that help prevent the fatty storage in the liver, too, because a lot of what goes on after the holiday is we've overconsumed too much, but particularly sweets. You know, I'm not a cookie eater, but at Christmas, do I eat cookies? Sure. So, you know, we've done more. So doing that cleanse, and you know, a cleanse doesn't necessarily mean you have to get all kinds of strange things and colon cleanses or anything like that, but eating lighter on the food chain, more salads, more veggies, less meat and dairy, and more fruits, drinking your clean water. You can do your herbal teas, and if you need a little bit of help, try a homeopathic, and we're happy in our store to help you sort the right thing. I always like to say, though, check with your doctor, check with your pharmacist. If you're on prescription medications, sometimes I say it sort of takes you out of my ballpark. So be careful about what you're doing. But I like to say, some people would say, will that herbal medicine interfere with my prescription drug? But I will say, will that prescription drug interfere with my herbal medicine? Because I'd rather go the natural way.
Exactly.
You know? But, you know, let's be smart about our health, and if you need that medicine, you need it, and pay attention to your doctor.
Well, Susan, this has been so informative, and I hope my husband's watching today so he can run up to your store and get some of that to stop that sneezing.
Okay, great.
So
great.
thank you so much for sharing all your wealth of information. And please stay with us. We will be back momentarily. And thank you for rejoining us. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Michael Ledbetter, and he's going to speak to us today about a new program called the Recreational Music Making Movement, correct?
Correct.
Welcome to our program.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about this program.
Well, Music and Wellness Coalition of Greater Cincinnati actually started as an offspring of what's called the Clavinova Connection. The Clavinova Connection in Cincinnati was actually begun about 2009. And it started out as a program for the well elderly at the Coleraine Senior Center and at Bailey Place, and now has expanded to Anderson Township, soon hopefully to be involved with Mercy Hospital, hopefully involved with the Drake Center, and several other organizations in the community. They become interested in what is termed recreational music making.
Now, how would this help a person?
Well, there's different types of music, as we all well know. There is the traditional way of music making, and that's to take lessons. And then there is what's known as therapeutic music making, used by professional therapists to teach people how to overcome psychological difficulties. And then there's what's known as recreational music making. Now, recreational music making, the theory behind it is that it is strictly for enjoyment and for the well benefit and health of individuals, whether it be youth, middle age, elderly, Alzheimer's patients, pain management individuals. The idea is to use music to soothe the soul, so to speak. Now, this philosophy was begun by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Barry Bittman. And Dr. Bittman is a neuroimmunopsychologist, and neurologist. And he runs the Mind, Body, and Soul Institute in Meadville, Pennsylvania. His research really began back in 2003, 2004, when he started doing testing of well elderly individuals with the Clavinova piano, which is a computerized piano that allows people to play music without knowing anything about music.
Without being able to read music.
Without being able to read music.
Okay.
It's a computerized system that follows a light system, and the light system goes at your speed. So the better you become at playing the instrument, the faster the lights will move, and the more you become adept at playing music. And the theory is that over time, you actually may be able to learn to read music by playing.
I see.
So his research was in the area of genetic testing in the well elderly. And he actually followed a large group of well elderly over time and did DNA testing on these individuals and showed that 19 different alleles on the DNA strand of the well elderly were changed for the good, that had to do with the well-being. And so this has now expanded and exploded into programs throughout the country, in hospitals, in rehab centers, treatment of Alzheimer's patients, the treatment of disabled individuals, in the MRDD programs, in the treatment of post-traumatic stress syndrome, burnout in nurses and hospitals, and it has many different applications.
We have a relative who is autistic, and I know he's taking violin lessons but I think that would be a...
Autism is one of the areas that will hopefully expand into this. Not a lot of research has been done with the autistic because of the way the laboratories are set up.
I see.
But there's no doubt that recreational music making, the same as with Alzheimer's patients, can sometimes soothe the soul. And there's a philosophy that is known as cerebral hemispheric synchronization, which has to do with the centralizing of sound waves in the brain, and is used a lot in the treatment of pain, et cetera. So this
Like a
may
pain management type of thing.
pain management
yes.
type thing. So this also has a similar application for those people.
Now, currently, where would one find information? Where is it located here in Anderson currently?
Well, right now, in 2009, we had a fundraiser here in Anderson Township specifically geared toward developing a Clavinova laboratory in Anderson. And that slowly has developed, along with the help of the Peggy Rice of Anderson Township trustees, grants from the Schott Foundation. We have developed a Clavinova laboratory, which is now housed at the Anderson Senior Center. And this space is designated to the Clavinova Connection. It's a laboratory where not only the senior center people can use, but we're hoping to expand it, and has expanded to MRDD. We're hoping to expand it to youth, the music departments of the high schools, encouraging intergenerational accommodation of families. And we're now, just in this month, going to open the laboratory to start a program in the evening time for anyone in the community who would like to take part.
Now, how many instruments do you have there?
There are 6 instruments in the laboratory. The laboratory is set up so that you have a coordinator that is at the head instrument, and then you have, excuse me, 5 other individuals that are taking part in the laboratory. It's in the shape of a U. And that's the traditional setup of the laboratory from the very beginning. They have shown that that setup works the best. Right.
Well, I can see that would be a wonderful environment for a family, something they could do together.
It'd be tremendous, tremendous for the families. Yeah.
So the program is available then to anyone. Is this a free program through the?
It's a free program, yeah. And at this point in time, we encourage anyone who would be interested in recreational music making, whether they be a child, adult, elderly, to call the Anderson Senior Center, and they can take part in the program.
Now, there is a website also that someone can come to
There
check.
is a website. I'm sure the Anderson Center has a website, but there is also a website for the music and wellness community here in the city.
Now, that will be on your screen with a phone number to call if you're interested, and the website address. Now, how did you become interested in this? What spurred this interest in you?
Well, I've always wanted to play the piano, and because of my profession, I guess, I've never had the time to really invest the time in music lessons that I should. So I've always wanted to play the piano, and in 2009, I went to a fundraiser for this very thing at the Conservatory of Music at UC. And I was absolutely fascinated with what this program could do. And after Dr. Bittman was there as the keynote speaker, after he spoke, we had a performance by a neurologist from New York City who's a world-renowned pianist and plays in what's known as the Harvard Trio, which is Yo-Yo Ma, Richard Chang, and him. His name is Kagan. And he was unbelievable musical historian. After the performance, they had a Clavinova laboratory set up at the conservatory where you could come in and Dr. Bittman would demonstrate to you how this was used. So I was there, and he asked the audience, is there anyone who would like to play the Phantom of the Opera? Oh. And I said, no, there's no way. I'm not going to do that. So all of a sudden I said, why not? He's not going to make a fool out of me. So I went up, and I said, I'll do it. So I went up to the Clavinova piano, and I sat down at the piano, and he whispered in my ear, he goes, I want you to play with your left hand and conduct with your right.
Really?
And I played the entire Phantom of the Opera in front of 100 people, and it sounded just like I'd been playing the piano all my life. Right.
Now, this has an orchestra sound to it also,
It has
correct?
everything. It has all the background music. It's done by computerized discs that are built into the piano. You can play any type of music. It can be done with disc insertion. It can be done with off computers. It can be done right on the piano itself, and it has all kinds of music built in.
Now, are these labs throughout the country?
Well, there are labs throughout the country. There are a limited number of labs. We are the only city in the United States that has a music and wellness coalition dedicated to this. Now, Yamaha Music is the backing of the Clavinova Connection and what's known as Health Rhythms, which is a drumming, therapeutic drumming circle, which is also part of this type of program. for health and wellness. So Yamaha has been behind this from the very beginning. They are the ones that developed the Clavinova piano. Right.
So how many times would you have to go to actually sit down and play something? What would it take?
First time.
The first time.
First time.
Now you promised me, so if
Yep.
I called that I could sit down, all right, well, I'm going
First
to do
time.
it.
Yeah, by the time you finish leaving that night, you will be able to create your own music.
That must really empower someone to be able to.
It's kind of fascinating, really. We had a fundraiser here at the Anderson Center a year and a half ago. And well, actually, it was 2 years ago. That fundraiser, Dr. Bittman came and actually created an opera that was done on stage, and an original. He had the gentleman here, and I can't remember his name anymore now, but he was the developer of the digital system that Yamaha uses in the piano, and was the music director for the opening of Tomorrowland at Disney World. And he came in and showed what this piano could do. And then he took a woman out of the audience who had never played the piano in her life, and she created a piano performance with his manipulation of the music, but it was fascinating because she was literally in tears by the time she was finished. It was fascinating. Yeah.
That would be so many uses, like people with self-esteem issues,
Yeah.
maybe adolescents.
Well, one of the performers that night was one of the drivers from the Coleraine Senior Center, who, when that program started, he became involved. So this was 2 years hence now. He performs that night
Wow.
on the piano. Fantastic performance, yeah.
Dr. Ledbetter, could you tell us about some future fundraising?
Well, we had a very successful fundraiser that was in May that was for the Otterbein Home. And the Otterbein Home is developing a Clavinova laboratory for their residents. And our next fundraiser is going to be in the fall, and this is going to be a music therapeutics conference. And we're unsure exactly where this is going to be held at this point in time. It's either going to be at the Carnegie or it's going to be at one of the hospitals. So we try to do some form of annual fundraiser each year that benefits an organization. Our original fundraiser started out was to benefit Anderson. Then we did one that benefited the Jewish Center. We did another one that's did the Otterbein Home, and we hope to have these type of fundraisers ongoing that can benefit certain organizations throughout the community who are interested in developing these laboratories.
And if our viewers, if we've gotten their interest, they can call the number and set up a time to take a class. Now the class runs how long?
The class is an hour.
And it's a group.
Starting out on Tuesday evenings. There's going to be 2 sessions, 2 one-hour sessions on Tuesday evenings. And that's to start with. If it becomes successful, then obviously we'll expand it to other evenings also.
Well, this sounds like a program that can really, really do a lot to make people's lives so much richer.
I think it's a very enjoyable program, very non-threatening type of a program, strict entertainment, and it just makes people feel good when they leave because they're able to do something that they never believed they could do.
I think any time and in any age, and maybe the older you get to, you just appreciate that you can learn a new skill and do it well.
Right, exactly.
And
Yeah.
not have to practice every day
Exactly.
for 4 hours
yeah,
a day.
that's the point here. This is strictly non-threatening recreational music making for enjoyment and well-being.
That is great.
Yeah.
Well, this is just a wonderful gift, and here it's in our community for us to
It's
enjoy.
in our community, yeah.
And I thank you so much for joining us today and bringing this to light. And again, I want to remind you the number will be on the screen and the website. And again, thank you for watching Anderson Community Television. I'm Carol Donahue saying farewell and take care.